I'm really very excited about today's conversation as we begin to think about how do we enable our businesses to really grow. What are the things that we need to note? What are the things that we need to learn? What are the things that we need to begin to think about to ensure that we're able to build global enterprises? The Triad Masterclass and the Triad Masterclass series is the platform to enable mid-size businesses to be able to scale and grow by gleaning from the experiences of people that has been there and really are in the trenches. I'm part of three. So again, like I said, my name is Babatunde, and my other colleagues are Dr. Jumoke and Dr. Odabo, and we're just going to have fun today. So I'd like to just welcome everyone one more time. Our guests are already in the building, as the case may be. So just a quick welcome. I'd like to just welcome Bolaji, welcome. Bumi, welcome. Cyrus, welcome. Faith, welcome. Heavenson, welcome. Joshua, welcome. Jumoke, welcome. Lucy, welcome. Nasima, welcome. Nike, welcome. Shagun, welcome. Yemisi, welcome. Omotayo, welcome. Pat, welcome. You're all welcome, and we're expecting more people today. My guests are a powerful couple, and I'm really excited about this. Really, it's very personal to me because at least I know them, and then how many of us are ready to learn today? If you're ready to learn, I'd like you to press the thumbs up icon. All right. Right. Yes, the thumbs up icon on your screen. All right. Fantastic. Good. All right. Today I have two wonderful people. For the first time, we're having a power couple, right, who would be sharing their experiences with us. I have with me, and I'd like you to make them feel welcome, right? I have with me Mr. Kayode and Bimbola Olu-Martins. Can we celebrate them? Can we celebrate them? Yes. 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 And yes, and both of them actually create Ocean Basket under the OB Centers Limited. And what is OB Centers Limited? So OB Centers Limited operates as the Nigerian master licensee of Ocean Basket, Africa's largest seafood restaurant chain, founded in 1995 in Pretoria, South Africa. The brand has over 200 outlets across 16 countries, offering Mediterranean-style seafood in a family-friendly setting. Ocean Basket Nigeria delivers the same international quality with local flair, catering to Nigeria's urban and upwardly mobile markets. One more time, can we welcome Mr. Kayode and Bimbola Olu-Martins? You are so welcome, sir and ma. I am really, really excited. And by the way, all your outlets, I've had the rare privilege of being part of that family and eating, and the food is so sumptuous. I wish we could be having this right now in your restaurant.
Yeah, so, unfortunately, we haven't felt your impact on the bank accounts. Huh? Your visits should have impacted our bank accounts.
Yes, Mr. Kayode. Mr. Kayode, you have a very beautiful sense of humor. I'm going to really have an exciting time interviewing you and Mrs. Bimbola. All right, sir. Usually when we start, can we get to meet you, sir and man? I don't know who is going to start first, right? And should we say ladies first or you, sir?
As always, ladies first.
Ladies first. So can we just get to meet you so that everybody just gets to understand the brains behind this great outlet? Please go on, sir. Go on, man.
Is it going first? I'm going first.
Yes, ladies first.
Okay. Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. It's a privilege, and I take it as a real opportunity to be here. Thank you. It's an honor, Babatunde. My name is Bimbola, as introduced. It's actually Olu-Bimbola, not Bimbola. It's Olu-Bimbola. So my name is Olu-Bimbola. What else do you want to know about me? What else would you want me to say?
Another thing.
Okay, I've been married to Mr. Olu-Martins for 30 years. We have 3 boys.
Wow.
And we've been together, running Ocean Basket together for the last 12 years, 13 years, thereabouts. So,
wow.
Thank you.
13 years. I'm going to get to that shortly, but
Am I correct on that? Am I correct? Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah, more or less, yes.
Okay.
13 years. Wow. Sir, over to you, sir.
Hi. My name is Kayode Olu-Martins. I work as a director in Ocean Basket, Nigeria. And as you've met my lovely wife, we've been married for 30 years, as she said. And I learn every day. That's one of my mantras. And I think it's something that I need to. So when Babatunde said, put a thumbs up if you want to learn. I was looking for the thumbs up button because I couldn't find it, but I'm here to learn as well.
So 13 years. Yeah. So can you just give us an insight to your journey? I mean, how did it start? Why Ocean Basket? Why have you always played in the culinary industry? Anyone would like to start?
Okay, I'll start on that.
Okay.
I think it's important to understand that we are not restaurateurs. We are brand ambassadors. We represent a franchise. We represent a global brand, and I've never really had the desire to own a restaurant. What I saw was a gap in the industry. I went on a visit to South Africa in the early 2000s, and I noticed that they had this wonderful chain at that point in time in which I recognized Ocean Basket as a brand come to Nigeria. They had only about 50 stores, less than 50 stores, and all of those stores were based in South Africa. We pride ourselves to say that we're the first international store of the Ocean Basket brand. And we didn't actually, when I noticed the brand, I didn't actually have any intentions of, bringing it to Nigeria. But when I saw that gap, I felt that there was an opportunity in which we could actually bring in a seafood restaurant into Nigeria and I think thrive. And that's basically what we've done.
Very interesting. I mean, what? Because I'm looking at 13 years ago, I mean, this particular industry in terms of the culinary industry, I mean, it was really nascent. I mean, why seafood? If you don't, I'm really interested in why seafood? Why not the usual?
Like I said, we saw a gap. So back in we started negotiations with Ocean Baskets, way back, much earlier than the time in which we opened. So we started negotiations back in 2004, and the negotiations went quite a long time before we actually got ourselves together and then actually opened our first store. Now, you say why Ocean Basket, why seafood? Like I said previously, we saw a gap. We, coming from Nigeria, we saw restaurants in Nigeria, and I won't mention names, but the restaurants were, mostly what we call chicken and beef restaurants. And chicken and beef restaurants are basically restaurants where you would have quite a number of things on the menu: chicken, beef, fish, turkey, all that stuff as protein offers within the brand. And Ocean Basket is specifically a seafood restaurant. We sell nothing but seafood. Anything that you find in the waters, we sell it. But we don't sell beef and we don't sell chicken. So that unique perspective of the brand is what I felt would thrive properly and well in Nigeria, in the Nigerian climate.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Bimbola, just coming to you. I mean, was there any moment where you felt sort of reluctant? Because I do know your background. Was there any moments that you felt reluctant in joining the business? And what really shifted?
Okay, what shifted was, like you said, when they started the business, he had a partner. So at some point, the partner decided he was no longer interested. So it was an opportunity that came along, and he had to take on the shares. So when he became the sole owner of the franchise, the brand, we decided to join him. That was when we decided to join him.
And for me, that raises a lot of questions. So again, for people thinking about partnerships, I mean, just mentioned partnerships. What were some of those challenges? And what are the things that we need to think about, especially going into partnership with someone? What are the things that you feel that we need to think about? Because that's one of the main things that we have noticed in this part of the world. I mean, the ability to trust people.
Now, there are different types of partnerships. And I can tell you off the bat that having a partner it's actually very, very challenging. Fortunately, what I had at that point in time was a financial partner. He wasn't interested in running the day-to-day operations of Ocean Basket. He was my financial partner, in which we put funds together to bring Ocean Basket to Nigeria. There are a lot of challenges, I must say. There are a lot of challenges when you need to pick your partners wisely. You need to pick your partners very, very wisely. And most importantly, I think you need to cross all your T's and dot all your I's when you go into contractual agreements to look for a partner to work with. It's very challenging, and in the course of my relationship with my former partner, I ended up on a pleasant note. But there's so many stories that did not and will not end up on a pleasant note. But before you actually go into a relationship with anybody, business-wise, you actually do have to get a legal document in place to ensure that all the bases are touched on and you're not left out in the cold at the end of the day.
I find that very interesting. If you don't mind, I was going to also ask that what were some of those challenges you faced, especially trying to introduce this brand to the Nigerian market? Because the Nigerian market sometimes can be very finicky about a lot of these things. So what were your thoughts? What did you do to sell the brand, to the Nigerian market?
Now, the challenges are constant. It's not the challenges that we faced when we set up the brand and brought in the brand initially to Nigeria are challenges that we're constantly facing right now, so many years after our initial contact. Having said that, the peculiar challenges that you face is most times financial, because it does take a dig into the pocket to meet the financial requirements of securing a master franchisee. And the master franchisee basically it's countrywide. So we operate the master franchise for Nigeria, meaning basically if you want to open any Ocean Basket store in Nigeria, it has to be through OB Sensors, which is our company. Now, there's a financial implication there. And if you don't have your finances in place, that would be a challenge to actually secure the license in itself. And this differs from company to company. Obviously, we were the first international franchisee of Ocean Basket. So we, that pioneer status within that company actually worked to our advantage. We got many things that we wouldn't normally have gotten, and things that I'm sure we will not be able to get today, we managed to get sorted out back then. But there are Herculean challenges in, trying to set up a business like this in Nigeria.
So now I was going to also ask, in terms of the dynamics between you and Mrs. Bimbola. So how did it work? Or how is it working?
I'm going to speak now because you're talking about the foundation of Ocean Basket in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I'm like I said, traditionally we're not restaurateurs. We've never been involved in the as you put it, the culinary industry.
Yeah.
I am a businessman, and I saw a gap and I opened Ocean Basket. Now, that means that I actually have quite a number of other things that I put my hands in to occupy my time with. And as Ocean Basket was growing, we realized that there was no reason for us to continue to employ other people as general managers and managing directors of the brand in Nigeria when my wife was actually working elsewhere at that point in time as an employee of a company. She's a chartered accountant, and I felt that bringing her expertise into the day-to-day operations of Ocean Basket would be advantageous for the brand in Nigeria. Now, and these, I'm sure these are questions you might want to ask later, which I'm going to answer now.
Yeah.
You have to work with, there must be a synergy between you and whoever you're working with. Yeah. And everybody has their pluses and minuses. They have their strengths and weaknesses. If you do a SWOT analysis of the business, you would identify particular strengths from the leadership where that differ. And I have my strengths. I'm very strategic. I'm very forward thinking, and I'm always, I'm good at expanding and growing a brand. But I'm not particularly a people person, a day-to-day people person. I struggled when I was involved in the operations of Ocean Basket, working with. We currently employ about 100 people, and that's quite a number of people to say good morning to every day. And as I said, I'm not a people person per se, but my wife, I noticed. I mean, we've been married for 30 years. I've known her to be a God-fearing people person, and she would know how to handle people on a regular basis. So when I decided that I think it would be time for her to give up her employment status and become an employer of labor herself and a partner with me in Ocean Basket, I looked at that strength, and that strength is what would basically forge the company forward and actually make a difference. And that's where she has taken over the operational day-to-day running of Ocean Basket in Nigeria.
Wow, Mr. Kayode, you're not a traditional Nigerian man. I mean, and that's a very important lesson to everyone on the call. And beyond your spouse, it's important for you to understand where your strengths lie. And I like what you said, sir, that you're very strategic in your thinking. And of course, a lot of things that you're thinking about in terms of expanding and building. So it was important for you at the stage of growth of your business to look for a people person to ensure that you manage that part. And I think that's a critical lesson for all entrepreneurs, especially CEOs, to understand where your strength starts and where it stops, and look for people that complement it. Now, there's a few questions that are on the chat box, but before I ask those questions, sir, is that, Mrs. Bimbola, how did you feel stepping into his shoes? Because looking at both of you right now, so you have an extremely strategic person, right, who is obviously globally conscious, and you being a people person. So how, coming into his shoes, how did you feel? And what are the things that you also learned, sort of easing into that role as CEO?
Okay, thank you. So it wasn't because when I joined the company, he was still there with me, so we're doing stuff together. Oh. But it wasn't a decision that was made in one day that let him as the director, let him just go move away and I take the role. So it was more, it was like over time. It was a transition that took time. So at the point in time when he said that I wanted to, and like I said, he wasn't so involved in the day-to-day affairs of the company. So I still get to go back to him from time to time. As husband and wife, still get to discuss stuff with him, run things by him every now and again. So it wasn't so difficult, or it wasn't a challenge per se, because I can easily pick up the phone and call him and say, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So it wasn't an issue per se, transitioning into that role. So he, like you said, he's more of he's not a people, he's more strategic in his thinking and all that. So I'm more of the one implementing, and even when he was when I wasn't involved, he also wasn't one involved in the day-to-day affairs of the company. So he had the GM, he had other operational managers, and so he was never involved in that role. So in me coming on board, and I had him, like I said, it's just a phone call away, or he's right next to me. So it wasn't an issue per se.
Thank you very much, Ma. And again, for me, this is so, and I hope you're taking notes, everyone, again, because this is one of the challenges of today's businesses, to see the fact that as CEO or founder, the ability for you to let go and allow someone else that you feel that has the competencies to be able to drive business growth. And I like the fact that the words that you have used is hand-holding. It wasn't micromanaging. It was always there to ensure that you succeed. And for those of us who are entrepreneurs running our businesses, this is a very critical lesson that if you start a business, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be there forever. It's important that you need to think about transitions. And that's a very important key. Sir, there's some few questions. Sir and Mother, a few questions, and again, we want this conversation to be very dynamic, and because our time is quite constrained. So if you don't mind, there's some questions that some people have started asking. Do you mind if I ask those questions?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right. So someone was asking, and I think it started from the foundation when you were talking about owning the master licensee. So you said, so the person asking, was the company Ocean Basket planning on a franchise model internationally, or did the idea come from you? What swayed the decision in the favor of the Nigerian master licensee?
Okay, now let me answer that. Ocean Basket at that point in time was a pretty big company within South Africa. Big, they had about 40 stores within the South African space. When we approached them, let me give you a context. We approached them in 2004. We didn't put pen to paper until 2007. And we were challenged by the Nigerian factor. They weren't necessarily interested in dealing with Nigeria at all. We put in phone calls and sent messages. Then it was more of phone calls and emails to the head office to try and engage them. And they weren't interested in Nigeria. And I think it had a lot to do with our reputation as against not looking at the prospects on the possibility of the business itself. They were not interested because of our reputation. We had to sell ourselves, and we had to go through intermediaries as well. When we approached them and they finally looked at the numbers, they looked at our brand and they looked at their brand in Nigeria and they saw 200 million people, and I think some people started getting ideas that, wow, this might be a good market. So no, I don't think they were interested in franchising at that point in time. But when they did decide to franchise, when we engaged them, and we became the first of 16 countries that operates the Ocean Basket master license around the world right now.
So you use the word. Sorry? Okay. You use the word. Hello, Jumake? Hello?
Yes, please. I'm here. Yes, please.
Okay, you said something. You're asking a question.
Oh, yes. So I was one that asked the question about the decision to actually bring them into Nigeria. And, one of the things he said about selling because I know there's a hurdle, there is a tension that is even technically existing between Nigeria and South Africa. So I was wondering how they were able to get that done. And maybe a follow-on question for me would be, now that you've been operating this same franchise over the years, how have you been able to sustain that interest? So you sold to them the opportunities that exist, but how did you then get to continue to sustain? Because I know that partnerships or JVs can really be problematic. How did you sustain the trust? How did you ensure that you were able to expand on the back of that franchise? Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to take the first part of your question, if I can remember it, because unfortunately I'm not taking notes. One of my lesser strengths. I think the tension that you mentioned that exists between Nigeria and South Africa, that currently exists, didn't exist back in 2003. We didn't have the issues of immigrants in South Africa that were threatening their locals. It didn't exist. So, and even that tension that exists currently doesn't really have much to do with business, doesn't have much to do with big business. And so it's very easy for anybody to overlook these things currently, because the problems that we have with xenophobia and stuff like that has a lot to do with the how do I put it, the regular people that live in the suburbs, that live in the I don't want to use the word ghettos, but I'll use the words in the underlying areas. And they're the ones that actually cause the problems that actually exist within South Africa when it comes to Nigerians and immigrants within that country. It didn't exist in 2003, so we overcame that hurdle. The problem that we had was the image of Nigeria in itself. That was the challenge that we had, as we had that image of being fraudsters and people that were not straightforward in doing in their business operations. Now, how did we sustain that business over the years? It's very simple. Signing a master license with any company involves a lot of give and take. And one of the things that you're obligated to do is meet your own side of the obligations that you have signed up to. I have made it, or should I say, we have made it a consistent policy never to fail in those obligations. If we say we are going to do something that we're contractually liable to do, we go ahead and do it. And we've been doing that year on year for the past 15 years. And I can tell you that only until recently, we paid for everything that we brought in from South Africa. We paid upfront. It was only recently, and when I say recently, only 2 years ago, did they agree to give enough credit. I've never, we've been fortunate enough to be able to sustain our operation, our financial obligations domestically, but it's been a struggle sometimes to actually meet the financial obligations that we needed to meet to be able to continuously run the business. But only until recently did they realize that, look, at these guys have been with us for 15 years. This is the time that we should be able to give them back. So we don't pay for stuff anymore. We have that line of credit. We can go in there, make orders, and they deliver to us. And they give, 3 months later, we think about settling those invoices. So it's about trust. And I've got to emphasize it. It's about trust and meeting your obligations. You need to be a man, a woman of your word. Whatever it is you say you're going to do, whatever obligations you have, you must meet them. Sometimes those obligations will put you at a disadvantage, and sometimes those obligations you might not actually profit from them. But because you are contractually bound to do something, it's imperative that you make sure you live up to the expectations of whatever contract you sign. And that trust that has developed over the years is what would actually make a brand look at you. And we've had entries from so many brands to represent them in Nigeria. It's basically based on the trust. And there are not many people, and I can tell you for free that a lot of people that started out with brands and started out with partnerships as master licensees in Nigeria have actually failed in the obligations and had those licenses withdrawn. But so, like I need to emphasize it, it's about trust and about you living up to your word and making sure that you do what you're supposed to do as a partner in the relationship.
Wow, thank you, Mr. Kayode. I find that very, very fascinating, especially coming from a Nigerian-owned and run business. Words like trust, words like integrity, meeting your contractual obligations. I think that's so strong. Now, the question I'd like to ask Mrs. Bimbola is this. How are you able to sort of take that in terms of the standards or the culture that you want for Ocean Basket, how are you able to operationalize it within the business? I mean, so this is founder saying, this is for us, meeting our obligation, trust, integrity. But how were you able to sort of take that, which is part of the culture, and ensure that it's part and parcel of our day-to-day operations?
Okay, it has been a bit of a challenge, but we've been able to, well, over time. We're on a journey, so we're slowly but surely we're getting there. So basically, one of the issues we've had in terms of is to do with the staffing. That has been a bit of a challenge. Consistency, I won't believe you in terms of what the question is, consistency with the brand and the global brand. Then, so let me see, the high operating cost has been an issue. And the other threat also is the intense competition, and also the changing consumer preferences has also affected us in a sense. It has been a bit of a challenge. And also the government regulations, every now and again, you get today, you have this tomorrow, you have all sorts of agencies on your back. And like I said, the staff. So we've had to embark on thankfully, the model of the brand is the training. So we're consistently training and retraining. So we have something called Vibe meeting that we do on a daily basis, which has helped. And the mission of the company as well, in terms of being a customer-friendly restaurant, has also helped. So that has been making sure we stay focused in terms of the mission of the company. We have a mission that's called the OB Promise, the 4Fs. And the 4Fs means famous fish, fabulous service, fantastic value, and friendliest of places. But in recent times, like I said, we've had challenges in terms of making sure it's affordable, in terms of money, because of the hyperinflation in the economy, high cost of everything, operational costs, and that's it basically.
I find that very interesting. I find, in terms of your values, and one of it is customer centricity. I mean, again, I like, if you don't mind, can we just explore that a little bit? Because looking at the Nigerian market and quite a number of shops, restaurants, right? This issue about customer centricity, creating customer experience, I think is a major problem in terms of enhancing that experience. How have you been able to make, I know you have mentioned it, but sort of give us more ideas. How have you been able to maintain that level of experience? So I've gone to Ocean Basket from the ambience, the aesthetics, the friendliness, you understand, and of course the smell, How have you been able to manage and maintain that over the years?
I think one of the strengths or the advantage is that because it's a brand it's a global brand. So it's part of the contractual obligation to ensure that you maintain, to adhere to the company policies and procedures and the plans. So over the years, like I said, using that as an example, the Vibe meetings we have on a daily basis. Yeah. The whole idea of the mission of I think the vision says that we want to be the friendliest, and the idea is to be the friendliest and most loved seafood restaurant. So we thrive, and we sort of, that customer experience is very, very, very important to us. So we also, and that we can only achieve that, like I said, Nigerian staff, you know how it is with customer service in Nigeria, is sort of non-existent. But we try as much as possible to drive that anybody that comes in knows that customer, I know we all say it is become a cliche, customer is king and all that, but we actually go further in ensuring that at every point in time, the customer experience is very, very important. That's it basically.
Okay. Mr. Kayode, so you talked about your obligations to South Africa. So what was your thinking like on building that brand in Nigeria, considering that there were going to be all of these hurdles and challenges? Of course, staffing and people issues, of course, the Nigerian issue on one side. So what was your thinking, and what was your model? What was your approach? For me, what was the mindset or the thinking around dealing with all of these hurdles?
Now, like I said, when we started engaging them initially, it was we had no knowledge of how to run a restaurant, and the knowledge that we've gained over the years has been by virtue of our relationship with the brand in itself. One thing that's advantageous of of partnering with a brand, a known brand, is the fact that they have what we call an operation manual. And the operation manual basically assists every master licensee and franchisee on how to run the business. One thing that we don't do is that as a brand representative is that we don't reinvent the wheel. Stuff that has been done, tried and tested, and been sorted out by the international department at Ocean Basket just has to be implemented. It's easier to do. We add a little bit of local flavor to the running of the operations, but the brand itself, by going by the operating manual, we have that advantage of being able to run a restaurant that has been that's been run in other countries and at other points in time, and they face those challenges. The collective challenge has been sorted out, and we just basically implement it. So I'd like to say that we're not restaurateurs. We're brand ambassadors. We represent a brand, and that has been much easier to handle than if we started a brand from scratch in Nigeria. Now, of course, if you started a brand from scratch in Nigeria and you've run it for 15 years, you would have gained a lot of experience, and you'll be able to actually maybe sell your own franchise. But what we've enjoyed is that brand cohesion and that brand procedure, which we have adopted in Nigeria. It's much easier. Somebody asked the question, I think it was Adejumoke. She asked at some point in time that do we have sub-franchisees? Currently, we are all the stores in Nigeria are company owned. It gets to a time when you have a master license that you might not be able to reach all the crooks and crannies of where you would actually envision the brand to be. And at that point in time, you would be ready to take on sub-licensees, sub-franchisers who would be able to take the brand to other cities and other regions within Nigeria. Now, we own the right and we own the obligation of the brand to oversee whatever store is open in Nigeria. We have that obligation, and that is because we need to maintain standards. If you walk into an Ocean Basket store in Lagos, it should taste and feel the same way as an Ocean Basket store in London, or the same as the Ocean Basket store in Dubai, or Saudi Arabia, or Cyprus, or Malta, or whatever region that you're in. It should be consistent, and that consistency it's global, and it actually emanates from the head office. And so long as you're consistent and you're loyal to the brand, and you're not tinkering with key things, then you're fine, you're good to go. And like I said, we're not restaurateurs, so it's easy for us to key into those things. They bring the man, we look at it, we adapt it locally. When it comes to the menu offering, we tinker with it a little bit so that we can appease the Nigerian palate, which is very unique. And we get to do that. But at the same time, we appreciate the fact that the brand in itself should be consistent across all regions.
Very interesting. I would like to just get a little bit personal whilst we're talking about this, and that is, when you started out, when Bimbola took over from where you left off, how did it? I mean, at least you were working together. So, what was the dynamics like? So just in case you're talking to people who have the husband and wife dynamics working in an organization like yours. So what was the dynamic like between you? So I'd like to start with Ms. Bimbola.
Because we had different offices, so it wasn't a case of you're in my face. I mean, do you understand? So I leave the house in the morning. He has other things that he's doing as well, and so it wasn't Okay, do you want to come in? There was no. I had my office. He had his own office. Every now and again, I'll walk in if I had issues or questions. If we had meetings, we'll do the meetings. But it wasn't. It wasn't.
So you have to let me.
So what would you advise? What would you advise couples who
Somebody
are
was
working
saying
together?
somebody wanted to ask.
Today, I want to add something. There are different personalities, right? Mr. Olu-Martins is strategic. Hello, that
Yes,
he's strategic. He's very strategic. She is operational. So they complement one another. You understand? I just wanted to add that because I have a little bit of background about the two of them. But Mr. Olu-Martins is very strategic. He's a visionary. So he looks into the future and he plans ahead. While Bimbo comes in as more operational and tries to ensure that the business meets the operational manual or guideline of what the franchise expects from them. So to that extent, they're very, very complementary to each other.
Thank you.
And that is what I wanted to, mention. Thanks, Kayode, for that. It's I mentioned it, when we started, that you need to recognize your strengths. And once you recognize your strengths, you'll know where to let go and when to let go. Working with each other it's like my wife said, it's not challenging. Yes, we do stay in the same house and we do work in the same business, but she is operational and she is capable and able to be there on a daily basis to make sure that the brand actually grows in the way it's supposed to grow. It doesn't interfere. I don't interfere. Well, I was going to say I don't interfere, but I do. I actually do try and put in. I actually do try and put in. Give the brand my 2 cents every day. But she sees it globally. She sees it because she deals with the people every day. When I come in and I see something that's not wrong, I first of all go to meet her, because that is her department. Operations in Ocean Basket in Nigeria is solely the responsibility of the managing director and CEO, and that is Mrs. Olu-Martins. And we take that. She takes that responsibility seriously, and I also recognize that responsibility. So the synergy between both of us is basically based on recognizing individual strengths and individual roles. I don't see any problem whatsoever if you decide to open a business with your spouse for you to have any challenges that would interfere with the success of that business. It's important that you recognize your roles and be able to work on those roles to make sure that it works for the business as a whole.
I find that very interesting. So again, like I said, your case is really peculiar because you are really clear about where your strength starts and where it stops, and where her strength starts and where it also stops. Now, what happens in a case where you feel that you need to sort of, because what we have seen, especially in organizations run by couples, is that sometimes we could see a lot of micromanaging. What would you advise such couples in terms of managing those dynamics, especially when you said something very instructive, which is you go first to Mrs. Olu-Martins rather than going to address the issues because you know how to resolve it. So how do you manage that? That's exactly where my question lies, because for you it's clear. You are clear on what you can do. You're clear on what you should be doing. But what happens in such cases where you feel that you need to step in and sometimes you sort of move past that boundaries that you have set?
Now, the old adage says that there can't be two captains on a ship. She's the CEO. She takes care of operations. And if I see something that I believe needs my particular input, I actually do come in. And I like to say something. I like to say, if I'm wrong, I'll take responsibility. So if I insist on anything, I will go ahead and say, let's do it this way. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best way. But I will take responsibility for my action, which is, let's go ahead and do it my way. Now, if it ends up in not being the right thing to do, hey, I guess I would have learned a lesson. But if it ends up in being the right thing to do, somebody has to take leadership, and somebody does have to make that decision to say, and it's the same, it's the same with my wife. If she's headstrong about something and she feels strongly about the particular course of action, she would go ahead and implement that course of action. If she is wrong, at the end of the day, she takes responsibility. And nobody, like I said at the beginning, we're all learning.
Yeah,
we're all learning. Nobody has a book of life that would actually guide us through, and we learn every day and we make mistakes. But the beauty of making mistakes is that you learn from your mistakes, and those mistakes ideally shouldn't be repeated, since you end up in learning from them. And we as we forge forward in life and in business, we take on those mistakes and we take on the lessons that we've learned. And I'm sure, there's no reason why one shouldn't be successful at the end of the day, because they always say 2 heads are better than 1.
yeah.
And this is very, very, very apt for a husband-wife relationship in business.
And if I was a woman right now, I'd be blushing. The way you're just talking about your wife is so you're speaking with so much pride and, of course, so much confidence, which I feel is not, I'm sorry to sound stereotypical of the Nigerian man. but
I have to emphasize, it's her strength. She has peculiar strengths that I do not have. And I'm never one to be able to, I would not say that I have what I don't have. And the strength that she has, I give it to her. The strength that I have, I ideally won't want anybody to question it. But the strength that she has for operations, day-to-day running of the business, and growth of the business in that section. I'll give you a typical example. If I was to run operations, like I said, we have about 100 people that work for us currently right now. If I was to run operations for Ocean Basket, we won't have 100 staff. Maybe we'll have 10 left. Would have maybe 10 left, and that's on a good day, because I'm not able to deal with the intricacies of that individual relationship with staff. I don't have that quality. I don't have that skill, but she would know how to deal with it easily, and she does it every day, and she's been doing it every day for the past 12 years.
Wow. Someone just asked the question. So please, if you have any question, please, you can either write it in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand and we can have a conversation around that. Now, someone's asking a question. Was there any time during this journey that you felt like giving up? And what kept you going? So I'll start with Mrs. Bimbola.
Working with him or Ocean Basket?
So working with him, generally, the Nigerian market and all of that.
Working with him, yeah, sometimes I'm like, I'm not doing this job anymore. Your wife is too much. I'm not doing this job anymore. So we make fun, and it will tell you that I said, I don't want to be working with you anymore. Let me just be your wife so that I can still be enjoying the whatever. But every now and again we have our issues, but nothing over the top, nothing serious. So we have a disagreement. Sometimes, like you said, I want something done a particular way, he wants it done in a separate way. So at the end of the day, there's only one. I'll have to, at the end of the day, go his way, because we can only have one captain in the ship. So at the end, and I'm hoping that it will be wrong, so that I can, at the end of the day, come back and say, didn't I tell you? But so far so good. Yeah, we've had our issues, but most of the time, it's just like, okay, let's hope that this pans out well, because at the end of the day, it's the overall interest of the company that we're looking at. So taking the company to this, I know he has the best interest of the company at heart, and I do that as well. So at the end of the day, we'll just go with what he says. At the end of it, makes the call, even though I may not be happy with it,
but I like the fact when he did mention that it's important that at the end of the day, you take responsibility for the actions that you take, which I feel that's very strong and very important. And I think it's a very important lesson for each and every one of us. And I think, again, this is key for every entrepreneur here, that is, understand your strength, which is really key, and be secure in your own space and allow others to breathe. And I like what he said, that listen, I know myself that if I was going to do the day-to-day running of the organization, from 100, we're going to have less than 10. And I feel that that's a very important lesson for each and every one of us on the call as we run and grow our businesses. And the second question I was going to ask in the terms of what are some of your challenges. So you have talked about the dynamics that plays within the business, but I'm also referring to, so looking at the Nigerian market, right? This is now post-COVID, and some of the challenges, again, you are heavily dependent on supply chain. So how has that also impacted on running the business, thinking post-2020?
I think I'll just mention the fact that, you know, when you say running a business in Nigeria, it's Herculean. It's Herculean. Mrs. Olu-Martins will be able to touch on the, you know, the issues that we have with government agencies and government in general, and how they impact negatively on expansion and growth of business in Nigeria. We've had meetings, we've had discussions, we've had interactions with government to emphasize those facts. We met with the Lagos State. We met with the Lagos State governor a couple of years ago, and we emphasized that fact that the hurdles to progressively grow a business in Nigeria are Herculean. They're ridiculous sometimes. There was a point in time we took stock of all the government agencies that we have to deal with, and we counted about 50 agencies that would either bring you a bill or request for one thing or the other to be able to, for you to be able to continuously run your business without problem. And there's nothing like continuously running a business without problem, because the agencies will come and they will be on your neck trying to get one thing or the other from you. So the tasks are Herculean. When it comes to sourcing of products, when it comes to importations, I mean, let Mrs. Olu-Martins talk about it, because those operational issues are just beyond.
I can imagine, especially trying to maintain that standard.
Yes.
So, Mrs. Bimbola, over to you. Some of those challenges.
The supply chain disruptions.
Yes.
So today you go to the markets, you have this brand, then tomorrow you get there, it's not available. The consistency, like I said, logistical challenges, just government, the inflation, in terms of inflation, competition, there's been intense competition in recent times. The Nigerian Russian market is highly competitive, so there are numerous local and international players. So basically, I'm changing consumer preferences as well. Global food trends evolve, and there's a risk that consumer preferences in Nigeria might shift away from seafood to other food trends, other emerging food trends. So keeping pace with these changes is crucial, and it's very important. So which we have Ocean Basket, the global brand, helping us in that regard. But the supply chain disruptions and the government agents regulations is just killing. And sometimes the quality of staff as well. And that's basically it. The economic instability as well. So increase in the operational costs. In the last 1 year, we've had like a jump from about 200% increase in operation, or 300%, what am I saying? In operational costs.
Wow.
You know, so it's tough. Negatively affects the profitability and sales.
Okay, so again, you have mentioned competition. Again, how have you been able to remain competitive? Because I know that, and not fall into the trap to dilute your culture. Because what we have noticed, especially in my engagement with a lot of organizations, is that in the bid to try to grow, we begin to dilute what we say we are in terms of our value proposition. How do you stay true to you in spite of competition?
It's been tough. It's been tough, but like Kayode said earlier, if this is what we signed up for, and we have no choice but to ensure that we stay to that, to stay true to what we've signed up for. Trying to, Kayode, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I'll just say we need to, you continuously have to stay on brand. So, and I mentioned it initially, we're not restaurateurs, but you need to stay on brand. When you stay on brand, you have what Mrs. Olu-Martins is delivering every day: consistency. Consistency on brand, consistency on product delivery, and on menu, and on the menu itself. When we have that consistency, people would never forget what they're going to get. Because whenever you go into a store, you know, okay, I'm hungry today, I'm going to have fish and chips. You can be guaranteed that your fish and chips at Ocean Basket is the same that you would have anywhere in the world. And the same that you had yesterday and day before. And when you continuously stay on brand and stay consistent and loyal, sometimes it for want of a better phrase, it eats into your profits to be able to be consistent. So, but it's not about profitability at every point in time. Sometimes it's about delivering the quality that the brand stands for. You need to be conscious of that fact that you're not going to cut corners. You're going to continuously stay on brand and make sure you deliver what you have been known to have delivered over the years. The challenges that we face from competition is actually it's welcoming, because competition drives you. It opens your eyes to the fact that you've got to be on top of your game. You need to, rejig your advertising strategy, your social media strategy, your advertising strategy, and a lot of other strategies in which you actually have to work on to be able to increase the profitability and visibility of the brand. It's important that you keep to those things early and properly, so that it's competition that actually brings stuff like that out. Because if we didn't have competition, we have the tendency to sit on our ass and just basically believe that, oh, everything is okie-dory and everything's okay. But when we have that challenge from other brands, it makes us sit up. And then the local flavor is very important, because when we add local flavor and local tweaks to our menu option, it actually invites a lot of people, other people that they think of Ocean Basket as a Mediterranean. Okay, I'll tell you something. Now, Ocean Basket, when we started, was called the draw name was called Ocean Basket, your Mediterranean home of seafood. When we started Ocean Basket in Nigeria, over the first 5 years, we changed the local slang to Ocean Basket, your home of seafood, and we removed the Mediterranean. And the reason was because we actually added some particular items within our menu that would actually key more into the Nigerian palate. Now, having done that, the global brand saw the change that we had made. And guess what? 7 years later, they changed their name from Ocean Basket Mediterranean Home of Seafood to Ocean Basket Home of Seafood. So we had that input, and they actually took it up, and they took it upon themselves.
Nigeria.
Exactly. So they recognize those things. And I'll tell you another thing. 10 years ago, I introduced burgers, seafood burgers, into our menu. Now, they kicked against it. They said, you know what, it's crazy. We can't have burgers in a seafood store. Burgers connote beef, they connote chicken. But I said, look, if I'm putting a nice piece of whole fish in a bun, I'll call it a burger. But they said no. So we changed the name and we went through a whole lot of stuff. 10 years later, 2 years ago, we get an invitation to South Africa, and guess what? They're launching seafood burgers. And they
Wow.
recognize the fact, and they acknowledge the fact that this initiative came from Nigeria, because we were the ones that first of all thought about burgers. Burgers are one of our hottest selling items in the Ocean Basket brand globally right now. And it's because we use pure seafood, we use pure prawns, undiluted, unmashed up, into and sell it as seafood burgers. It's a crazy thing. But what I'm trying to bring out here is that recognize your local market, be able to adapt, and to be able to look at things holistically, to be able to see what can work within your community, what can work within your environment, within your region, that would move the brand forward. And that takes a lot of thinking from not only us, the owners, but also from our staff who actually input, and and feedback from customers that we get. So it's important that we look at all those challenges that we face and see how we can look and take those challenges and make them work for us. And that is what we've been trying to do consistently over time with Ocean Basket in Nigeria.
Wow. There are a lot of quotable quotes, right? I could just write a book right now. I like how to make challenges work for you. And that's a very strong, how to make it. And I think everyone, I mean, if that's going to be a slogan today, how do you make challenges work for you? And I like the fact that you did mention that, listen, I mean, this is me sort of paraphrasing. You really don't see competition, you see opportunity. And again, you talked about consistency, you know, adapt with your market, recognize the local market, and see what you can do by adapting. And I think that's very strong. So for those of us who are entrepreneurs on the course, and I think those are critical lessons that you need to sort of synthesize and sort of think about and listen. Every challenge is an opportunity for you to grow. And look at it that sometimes an idea comes, it might be out of place, but just keep at it, be consistent, and guess what happens? One of these days, you would see that it will come. But there's something that you said I think is so important, that when we're thinking about competition and ensuring that you stay on brand, you are not thinking about profitability. We're ensuring that your brand promise was consistent, and we're building that, ensuring visibility, ensuring that when people come into your brand, they meet the same level of excellence year in, month in, day out. And I think that's a very important lesson. And again, in this part of the world, we think about profitability against ensuring that our brand has a very strong footing in the market. And I think that's a very important lesson that I mean personally, I had to just write that down about ensuring that you stay on brand and see challenges as opportunities. Someone has asked a question here. In fact, there are two questions, and I'll read them very quickly. Our time, while I have a lot of questions, and I'm just sort of building up. So I'm going to sort of ask as many questions as I can before our time is up. I will start with Pat, then I'll go to Jumoke's question. So Pat says, thanks for all the insights shared on business branding, collaboration, etc. Please share insights on how you were able to manage a seafood restaurant successfully in Nigeria with all the infrastructure issues, particularly power, maybe roads and traffic and security too. And I think that Ms. Olu-Martins did mention about the logistic nightmare, the issues around supply chain and all of that. But I mean, anyone can please respond to that question from Pat.
Permit me to just respond quickly. I'll say my own little. The modus operandi of Ocean Basket in Nigeria is peculiar. It's not peculiar, but it's actually in-house. What everybody sees is Ocean Basket, the restaurant. That is what is our front end. You see the brick and mortar stores as our front end, but our back end is very, very deep. It has to do with cold chain management and maintaining the cold chain. DCs, which we call distribution centers, and ensuring that we keep those DCs in a position of strength where they'll be able to actually supply all the stores, the products, all the stores and our customers, which are not necessarily restaurant guests, the opportunity to make sure that they're supplied the product the way it's supposed to be supplied. Now, the cold chain management is crazy. Infrastructure, cold rooms, it's like Pat had mentioned, it's crazy. It's difficult to run the power issues and stuff like that. But you invest in the brand, and like Mr. Olu-Martins said, this is what we signed up for. You invest in the brand, you invest in cold stores, you invest in maintaining the cold store chain, the cold store chain, and stuff like that. So basically, those are the intricate parts of the business that customers don't actually see. So what they see is a meal on their table. They have no idea what goes on in the back end and the intricacies of what goes on in the back end. It's very, very challenging. But we are not the only people that run businesses in Nigeria. We are faced with the same challenges that everybody is faced with. It is overcoming those challenges is what we focus on. We don't look at them as challenges that are going to stop us from continuing the business. We actually look at them as challenges that have to be overcome. And that's what we do day in, day out. Mrs. Olu-Martins does that every day to overcome those challenges, whether it's power, whether it's logistics. It has to be done every day. And don't feel sorry for yourself. The fact that you're operating in a difficult climate. It's just the climate that we live in. So long as you're doing business in Nigeria, you need to roll up your sleeves and dig in.
So someone's responding, so now I know why they call you the power couple. And one word, whilst we were talking, one word does comes to mind, it is tenacity. And I think Zig Ziglar was sort of defining tenacity by describing the bulldog, citing that the bulldog is the only animal, well, that's genre. The bulldog is the only animal that can hold on to something and breathe at the same time. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's so important. And that's exactly what we're alluded to. The ability for you to be to persevere, to be persistent, to be consistent, and yet still breathe, not lose your individuality in the process. And that's what we're talking about, and saying that stay on brand, irrespective of whether you're losing money, but stay on brand because it pays in the long run. And being an entrepreneur, it's not a 100-meter dash. It's actually a marathon. And you have to be there for the long haul. And that's one thing that entrepreneurs need to think about. We are here for the long. And I'm so certain that you're thinking about 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, because you're building something that will leave a legacy. That's my assumption. Is that my assumption, sir?
The assumption is correct. I mean, if you go ahead and you're not going to be around forever, and
yeah,
you can't do the day-to-day. You can't run 4 or 5 stores by yourself. It's 4 or 5 stores in 4 or 5 different locations. You can't run it yourself. You have to rely on personnel. You have to rely on people. And the people aspect of the business is the key. They say the customer is king, but in-house, that's externally. But in-house, it is your staff that are king. You have to recognize the fact that your staff are king. If they decide to down tools and not come to work tomorrow, no Ocean Basket store will open in Nigeria. We serve 3,000 guests every day. It will become 0, because without the staff, we don't have a business. So we need to invest in. You need to invest in your staff, and you need to ensure that they are the ones that are going to carry they're the face of the brand. They're the ones that are actually going to sell the brand for you. If they do a bad job, Ocean Basket has done a bad job.
Sorry, continue, sir. Please go on, sir.
COVID presented challenges that we never even thought could exist on the face of this earth. When COVID started, everybody was in their house and everybody was cooking for themselves. Nobody was coming to restaurants to buy. I remember having a conversation with Mrs. Olu-Martins, and I was like, how are we going to come out of this on top? And one thing she said, then profitability was 0. You didn't look at profitability as a brand. You didn't look at profitability as a business. But one thing she said then was that if we continue to do what we're doing consistently, then we will not have a problem, because people will always recognize you and come back to you because they know what they're going to get. So we've never ever cut corners, and we've never ever given up on the business itself. We've always remained consistent with what you've actually put your mind to, and that has been the selling point of Ocean Basket in Nigeria and the success of Ocean Basket.
Wow. Sir, I hope you can see the interaction in the chat box. Someone is saying, I'm standing up.
Thank you, sir.
This is so important about having, in terms of your infrastructure, managing people. I like what you said, that yes, we know customers are king, but our employees are king. I think that's such an important statement. So the way we treat our employees is important. The way we manage talent is important. The way we manage our processes and ensure coherency across all our value points, all our touch points is also important. So for me, it's a master class. This is just MBA 101. But someone's asking a question, and I need to start to round down. So this is from when you come, she says, I wonder at what point the back end you described began to grow. Was it part of the initial plan in taking on the brand, or was it in a response to challenges as we went along? For businesses who are looking to establish themselves, do you have any advice on principles for deciding how much vertical integration you should plan for in Nigeria? Wow, that's a mouthful, and I think very important question. Thank you, Iko, for asking that question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll have to answer it because this is part of what I do for the brand. The back end of the business is basically what I do for the brand. I don't run operations. This is Olu-Martins handles that in its entirety. But the back end of the business, when it comes to cold room management, cold chain and cold chain and storage and stuff and importations, that is what I handle for the brand on a strategic level. First of all, yes, it has always been part of the business to have that back end management of the business. It's important. There's absolutely no way you can operate a seafood chain in Nigeria and not have that back end infrastructure in place. It was part of what we had actually started with initially when we opened our first store in 2012. It's you must have a cold room. And a cold room to be able to, so it's actually called, it was a cold room for a store at that point in time. Over time, we've had that development where we've been able to we moved it from a cold room into a DC, which is a distribution center. And the distribution center involves three things: cold, chilled, and dry. So your DC must have those three aspects to it, and it has been an integral part of the business and has to be an integral part of the business and future forward thinking of the business, because today you have one store, tomorrow you would have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stores, and you have to be in a position to be able to service those stores. So while we've got a central distribution center in Lagos, we have a regional distribution center in Abuja, which actually would cater for the northern parts of the country. So those are key things. So reinvesting into the business is what people have to understand you have to do. You just basically have to do it. If you think about taking all your profit and going to buy a luxury home in the south of France, then you're missing the plot. You actually need to reinvest in the business to be able to have the business grow. And if you're looking at fast profits, you need to look for another industry to invest in. But if you're looking at investing in this industry, you have to be patient to understand that you're reinvesting in the business would actually bring the profitability that you desire. And that is what we have been doing over time and what we need to continuously do. And I would advise anybody to save the glory for later, save the profits for later, save the whatever it is that you're looking for out of business, save it for later. Reinvest in your business today so that you can reap the fruits of that labor later on.
Wow, Mr. K, Mrs. B. I'm looking at my time, and there are quite a number of questions. And for me, and Teriba, thank you so much for that question, because I was really going to go into the more strategic aspect of the business, because when you mentioned the DCs and the cold chain, at least I have a little bit of understanding of that. I mean, it takes a lot of guts when you think about the logistical nightmare Nigeria is in terms of, number one, our road infrastructure, insecurity, as the case may be, and all of that, and also the power issue. It takes a lot of guts for you to do that. And I like the fact that you mentioned this thing about reinvesting into the business. And I think that's important for each and every one of us. So for those of us who are entrepreneurs, this is not the time to buy the Maybach or to buy the Bentley. This is the time to build something that is truly lasting, truly global, and truly Nigerian. So have a Nigerian brand that is comparable to any global brand in any part of the world. So my final question, and before I wrap things up, sir, and I would like to just point that to Mrs. B. It would be, so where do you see in the next 20 years? I mean, that's too far into the future. So the next 10 years, Ocean Basket Nigeria. Or are we going to be talking about Ocean Basket Ghana, Kenya? Yes, Mrs. B, yes, over to you. What are your thoughts? So next 10 years.
You're muted. You're muted.
You're muted, Mrs. B.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Interestingly, one of our sons has indicated that he's interested in joining us. So he's planning to join us next year, God willing. So we said we need to sit down and see how we plan it out and just see him come on board. So I don't intend to work forever and ever. Definitely not 20 years from now. But I'm sure that's the same thing for Mr. Olu-Martins. So that's the plan. Hopefully, maybe the boys will come, one of the boys, or the boys will come on board and take over.
So this is legacy for you. Wow, fantastic. And I like the transition, working on the business, of course. So, Mr. K, 10 years, would there be an Ocean Basket Kenya?
Look at, I don't see why there shouldn't be an Ocean Basket in every nook and cranny of the world, not only in Kenya or Nigeria. But the fact is that what you mentioned, you need to look at the time in which you need to look into the future and be able to say, where's this business going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, strategic planning for the future. Fortunately for us, like she said, one of our sons has actually decided to come and join us, and he will start at the bottom in the kitchen and learn the ropes and be able to relate with the brand. It's important for him to understand how the business got to where it is and to understand every aspect of the business for him to be able to be of benefit to the business. Now, he has a generational issue. The fact that the generation that he represents is actually our target market for the future. So we're moving into that. Yes, we're moving into that generation. So it makes sense for somebody like that to head those kind of head our operations and head the brand in Nigeria to be able to attract and relate with that new generation that we're actually looking at. And I encourage everybody to to think about succession planning, to think about who to put in place in the future, because you will never be there all the time to run your business. You have to be able to look at the future and say, who can do this for you? And no better person than somebody that belongs to a member of your family.
Wow. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. K and Mrs. B, for taking out the time to really share your heart. And I mean, looking at the feedback, a lot of people really I've been seeing things around insightful conversation, and I like the two things that you said about these family-run businesses, which is one, ensure that he starts from the bottom so that he's properly integrated and he understands where we're coming from and where we're going to, and understand what's going on at the shop floor. And I think that's such an important statement that you mentioned. And the second thing that you did mention, sir, which is something that we need to think about, which is sort of lacking, even in the corporate centers of the world, more importantly in Nigeria, is succession planning, which I feel that's such a key thing. And again, for me, this has been a very insightful session. And I really want to say thank you, sir. Thank you, Ma. And I also want to say thank you to everyone that has taken the time to be part of the Triad Masterclass series. And like I said, the Triad Masterclass series is part of a bigger platform, which is called the Triad Masterclass, where we sort of engage with different business owners. And the focus really is how do we grow those businesses. And so we're having one in June, 17th of June. And then you are invited, although this is a paid event. So if you want to, I can give you details later. So can I get any final comments from you, Mrs. B, before we go? Just 30 seconds, then Mr. K wraps up.
Okay, so just few words. I would say, okay, business in Nigeria, focus. I would say perseverance. I would say doggedness, because it's tough. It's tough out there. It's challenging. But like you said, like Mr. Wan said, the challenges should be seen as opportunities, not a means to not a way to close or to give up. So just stay focused. If whatever the mission, whatever you signed up for, ensure that you stay focused and you're not distracted, because issues will come, challenges will come. Just stay focused.
Thank you so much, man. Mr. K, final comments?
Same. I'll just echo what my wife has said. Be consistent. Be on brand. Well, not on brand if you're not Ocean Basket, but whatever you decide to do, focus on it itself and make sure that you kick your heels and dig in to make sure you're in there for the long haul. Think about the future and how you can move to the next level within your business. It's important, but most importantly, one thing we always forget to mention: your trust in God. It's always very, very important. In business, you need to be very, very prayerful. In Nigeria, you need to be extra prayerful, because if it can go wrong in Nigeria, it most likely will.
Wow, thank you.
I think I saw a question. I think I saw a question about something about this, our son volunteering. It was his decision. We didn't ask him to come. It was his decision. So I saw something about.
Oh yes. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I really enjoyed this session, and thank you for taking out the time to be with us. So
thank you for
everyone,
the invitation.
yes, thank you. Even at short notice as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Goodbye, everyone. See you next time as we have the next series.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Kemi, thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a great session with plenty insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Huh? Okay.